Welcome back students to the fourth part of the video of the Russian Revolution. In this we will be discussing about the Civil War and the Stalin's era. After the Russian Revolution we see Lenin emerging as the most popular and most influential leader in Russia. He and his group, that is the Bolsheviks, were termed as Reds in Russia, whereas the ones who were against the Bolsheviks, that is the non-Bolshevik socialist, liberals, supporters of autocracy, were termed as the Greens. There was one more group known as Whites. They were the pro-Tsarist, that is the people who supported the Tsar and his policies. So the Greens and the Whites together fought a war against the Reds. This was known as the Civil War. In the Civil War, the Greens and the Whites were supported by the French, American, British and Japanese troops as well. Now here a question may rise that why France, America, Britain and Japan supported the Greens? Why were they against the Bolsheviks? Here the reason you can say that even they were against the idea of socialism which Bolsheviks were supporting, and also they wanted Russia to be back to the World War and support them to fight the war. So that is why they supported the Greens and the Whites to fight against the Reds. But as we are well aware of the popularity of Lenin and the support that Lenin had, so in the civil war, once again Lenin emerged as victorious. And as a result of this civil war, a majority of Russia's population, which was in support of Lenin, wanted a region of their own. And thus, as a result of the civil war, Russia was divided, or a part of Russia was given to the Bolsheviks, which was termed as the USSR, that is, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. The USSR came into existence in the year 1922. In 1924, Lenin died. After his death, Stalin became the leader of the Bolsheviks. Stalin too was one such man who was strictly against the private property ownership. And thus, according to him, the problem that existed among the farmers was the rich peasants or the rich farmers who were known as kulaks. And thus he wanted the removal of these kulaks from the community, from society. He proposed that all lands or all farms must be brought up together and all farmers should be collectively farming on the lands. These collective farms were now termed as kolkhoz. This policy of collective farming was known as collectivization, which was introduced by Stalin. He developed or he introduced this policy with the thought to develop the farms or to modernize the farms and thus eliminate any sort of discrimination from among the farmers. But his idea of collectivization did not work out. Rather, it caused one of the greatest famines in the history of Russia. Another policy that was brought about was the 5-year planning. Now, 5-year planning is something like wherein certain targets are set and that 5-year is taken up as the deadline to complete the targets. So 5-year planning proved to be helpful to improve Russia's economic condition. So on one hand, where collectivization of farms was a failure, on the other hand, 5-year planning was a great success. This 5-year planning is one such feature which we see that many of the countries of the world today practice. Even we Indians are part of the 5-year planning. We see that in our country also the government is elected for a tenure of 5 years and all targets were set for this 5 year and the government has to achieve it within the 5 years. So this was Stalin's era. With this Russian Revolution or the formation of USSR, the world got the concept of socialist society or socialism. The world too got the concept of 5-year planning. So Russian Revolution had a lot of impact on the world. Russian Revolution also encouraged like the policies of controlling people was something which was taken up by countries like the Great Britain. But more than negative impacts, what the Russian Revolution has gave the world was are the positive influences. And one of the most common legacy of the Russian Revolution we can take up as the concept of socialism being introduced to the world. So that is all about the lesson, the Russian Revolution. Hope the experiences of the lesson are good and learning for you people. Thank you. Take care.